we begin in the association with the Eastern Conference Finals and a very familiar rivalry. Game 1 of the series is tonight. The Knicks host the Pacers. New York and Indiana are back at it again. It's their 4th meeting in the conference finals, tied for the most between any teams since the round began in 1971. It's their 9th playoff meeting overall. All eyes are on Jalen Brunson. He enters this series with 17 30-point playoff games as a Knick, one shy of tying the great Patrick Ewing for the most in franchise history. Both teams chasing their first finals appearance in the last 25 seasons. New York last made it in 1999, falling to the Spurs. Indiana followed, making it in 2000, then losing to the Lakers. We've got this series fully covered. Reporter Tim Bontemps, analyst Andrea Carter, and still taking our network by storm, Pistons head coach J.B. Bickerstaff. Tim, I'm going to start with you. What have people around the NBA been telling you about how they view the styles in this series?
Well, Christine, as JB knows better than anybody, having coached against both these teams a lot over the past several years, these are two teams that play wildly different styles, and which one is going to be able to control the way the series is played out is probably the one that's going to come out on top. Let's start with the Knicks. They obviously want to play a slower, more deliberate pace. They only play 7, maybe 8 guys in their rotation. Jalen Brunson, the clutch player of the year in the NBA this year, obviously is a guy who's extremely confident in late and close situations. The Knicks have been in them a lot. They were in them a lot in the first round against JB and the Pistons, as well as against the Celtics. But they're a team that isn't going to want to fly up and down and push the pace. The Pacers, on the other hand, that's all they want to do. They play 10, 11 guys. Rick Carlisle goes deep into his bench, even in the playoffs. They're about as successful a team as we've ever seen at playing fast in the playoffs. Tyrese Haliburton is tremendous in the open court. And in this series, Indiana is going to want to get out and run. And which of these teams can have this either be a fast-paced series led by Indiana or a slow, grinded-out one led by the Knicks? That's probably going to be a good way to determine who's on top in the series in the end. JB,
Tim just laid out how you know this challenge very well. How can New York force Indiana to slow down and make this a half-court game?
Well, I think it's going to let their offense is going to have to dictate the tempo. They have to do a great job of taking care of the basketball, working the clock late. They can't be one of those teams that's coming down and taking quick shots. And then they got to do a great job of crashing the offensive boards, which is their identity. Because if they're crashing the boards, then Indiana can't leak out and get out into transition and create those easy opportunities because they have to account for guys like Josh Hart and those guys and Bridges who are attacking the old glass.
All right, Dre, we already know that there will be plenty of talk about the guards in this series. I want to get your thoughts on the post players. You got Cat and OG for the Knicks. Indiana has Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam. Among those 4 guys, who do you have your eye on in this series?
Well, it's hard to pick just one because I'm going to be watching all of them, of course. But if I had to pick one, I'm going with OG Anunoby because the other 3 guys that you mentioned, they've been scoring in double figures consistently in their conference semifinals. But when you look at OG Anunoby, he is a monster on the defensive end. But offensively, he's taken Knicks fans on a bit of a roller coaster, especially in that Boston series. He had 3 games with more than 20 points, but OG Anunoby also had 3 games where he was held to single digits. OG Anunoby is so physical, he's so strong, he can impose his will on both ends of the floor. The Knicks are 28-10 when OG scores more than 20 points. His offensive firepower could be the difference for the Knicks.
All right, another offensive firepower is one of their stars in this series, Jalen Brunson. He has 6 30-point games this postseason. Tim, what have scouts been telling you about the key for Indiana defending him?
Well, it's trying to slow him down, Christine, in any way possible. And as you mentioned, that's something that really no one's been able to do over the past few years in the playoffs. Jalen Brunson's had one tremendous playoff performance after another, including in last year's Eastern Conference semifinal against the Indiana Pacers. Andrew Nembhard is a terrific defensive guard, one of the better defensive guards in the league. Jalen Brunson was able to get whatever he wanted against him in that series last year before breaking his wrist early in the first quarter of that Game 7 loss. This series, the way this is going to play out, we're going to see a lot of Andrew Nembhard on Jalen Brunson, probably some Aaron Nesmith as well. But if Andrew Nembhard cannot do a better job this year on Jalen Brunson, and Brunson's able to get going in the way he was last year, it's going to make a big challenge for the Pacers that much more difficult. Because if Brunson's going for 30, 40 points a night, that is going to be a huge building block for the Knicks if they want to try to get the 4 wins they need to get back to the NBA Finals.
All right, so that's a challenge on the Knicks side. Brunson spoke earlier today on the challenge, what the Haliburton presents for them. He's saying he's very difficult to slow down. JB, what do you think the key is for Tyrese Haliburton to lead Indiana to the finals?
Anything early. He needs to do a great job of pushing the ball, creating that tempo like we're talking about. but he's got to pick his spots. And I think that's what he does a great job of, is he has a great feel of when. If he needs to be aggressive early in the game because that's how the defense is playing, he can do that. If he needs to set his teammates up early in the game, he can do that. And then in the fourth quarter, we've seen him take over and make big shots. So he's going to have to play the long game here. It's going to be a 1 through 4 quarter game with him, and he's got to make the adjustments through the game or make the Knicks defense make an adjustment to him.
Okay, so Dre, those two guys, Hallie and Brunson, they're two of the league's most clutch players. If this series turns into a bunch of close games late, who do you have more confidence in?
Why am I getting all the questions where I have to pick
welcome.
one? Can we make the other guys pick one, Christine? What is going on? This is so tough because they are both phenomenal. I want to make Coach pick one, but since you asked me, I'm going to go with Jalen Brunson because when you talk about games going down to the wire, that is what the Knicks have been involved in for so long. We have seen so many games where Jalen Brunson has to deliver. Tyrese Haliburton is one of my favorite players, and he has had spectacular moments. But as far as consistency goes in close games, Jalen Brunson has been in more of these situations, and he has delivered time after time. He is the clutch player of the year for a reason. He knows how to get into the bodies of guys. He knows how to get to the free throw line. He knows how to knock down shots. He loves that step back with his left. There are so many aspects to his game that I trust, and he's been in those situations more. So because you're making me pick, I'm going Brunson, and I'm done with you for the day.
Dre, we just know that women are a little bit more decisive, so I knew that you can give me an answer. Tim, thank you. Dre and Coach, we'll see you a little bit later.
That's fair.
What a series we've got coming between the Knicks and Pacers. Reporter Jamal Collier, Chris Herring join us now. Jamal, I want to start with you. Tyrese Haliburton led the Pacers past the Knicks in the East semis last year, winning Game 7 at the Garden. So what is he saying about playing New York this time around with the chance to get all the way to the finals?
Yeah, Matt, he's looking forward to a chance to potentially troll Knicks fans again. Last year after that Game 7, he walked into that post-game press conference with a sweatshirt that had that Reggie Miller image on it, the choking gesture to Spike Lee. And that was after Haliburton spent most of the fourth quarter and really that entire Game 7 jawing at Knicks fans, going back and forth as the Pacers got out in front and put that game away. I was at Pacers practice in Indiana earlier this week, and Haliburton said he's excited about another chapter in this rivalry. It started off last year. There may have been some bad blood with it, just the history of the franchises. But he said by the end of it, Knicks fans really started to dislike certain players on the Pacers. So he has really sort of egged on Knicks fans any chance he got. You'll remember that WWE run-in that him and Brunson had last summer as well. Haliburton has really enjoyed playing the villain there, and the Pacers have really done that in its entire playoff run. He's looking forward to continuing that back at Madison Square Garden starting tonight.
That's the indelible moment, right? Reggie Miller, the steal, the three-pointer, the choke sign, Spike Lee. I mean, that's what all of us remember watching this series. And, Chris, we know Indiana likes to run. So what is New York's area of focus on the defensive side?
Believe it or not, they were actually kind of candid enough to say we can't complain the way that sometimes you might want to get in an emotional moment, an emotional playoff game. They know that they will be losing an edge defensively. And Mikal Bridges actually was the one to say that, where he said, you complain and look up at the ref for half a second, you're going to be putting them in a position where they take advantage of that. They're just too good and too fast offensively. They get a 5-on-4. They always make the right decision. They always make the right play. They're the fastest team from the Eastern Conference in the playoffs this season. The Knicks have actually done a pretty good job on defensively when they've turned the ball over. They've given up the fewest points in the postseason, 12.5 per game off turnovers. But in some of those games, the problematic ones against Boston and even 1 or 2 against the Pistons, they did kind of shrug their shoulders and get upset with officials. And so that's something that they want to be really cognizant about against the Pacers specifically.
I'll tell you, 2 rounds in a row. Knicks Celtics, nostalgia. Knicks Pacers, nostalgia. What a great run for the Eastern Conference throughout this postseason. Chris and Jamal, great stuff. Thank you.
Both these teams have been playing some great basketball. Okay, Julius Randle. Randle's got it cooking right now.
We didn't panic, obviously, in the struggles in the first half. We knew that we stuck with it. They would eventually fall, and they did.
You think you're in the game, and then all of a sudden, it's blowout city. The Thunder with their largest lead of the game. Caruso, three-pointer. Bang!
That's a 7, not first to 1, and we know that. A lot more work to do.
That's right, the Thunder grab Game 1 in the West Finals. We are back with Andrea Carter and JB Bickerstaff. JB, I'm going to start with you. We know how good Oklahoma City's defense was in the regular season, and they showed up again last night. What impressed you the most about what they did on that side of the ball?
Just how connected they are. When you watch those guys play, it's never a one-on-one proposition. It's always 1-on-5. There's always extra bodies coming. You see, anytime you're in an ISO, you think you're by yourself, you think it's a one-on-one, but they do a great job of bringing size and length to the basketball and then forcing you into tough positions where now they create deflections, they create turnovers, and that gives them an opportunity to get out in transition and get easy baskets because of their athleticism.
Yeah, we just saw right there, Dre, Anthony Edwards, he struggled the entire game. He was just 5 for 13. He only took one shot inside the paint. What exactly does he need to do differently in Game 2?
You know, it's so tough. I mean, you just heard Coach talking about the defense from OKC. I mean, they swarm, they collapse, they cover for each other so well. But Anthony Edwards has the athleticism and the skill to make quick plays out of his drives, dribble penetration, and getting into the paint. It's a tall task because of the way OKC rotates to the ball. But if Anthony Edwards can get into the paint, make quick decisions, find his teammates, the Minnesota offense will be better for it. He had 7 drives last night. That is a low for Anthony Edwards in the postseason. Good things happen when the ball touches the paint. He doesn't necessarily have to get all the way to the rim. He doesn't necessarily have to score, but if the offense can have some flow. Another thing that'll help Minnesota, if they get stops on the defensive end, they're not always going against a set OKC defense. So Minnesota can get stops, then they can have a little flow offensively as well.
Yeah, we knew that the Ant-Man was going to have to show up if Minnesota was going to win this one. On the other side, SGA was going to have to do the same thing. He struggled in the first half, and then he had a great second half. Coach, what did you see that changed for his game?
Well, I just didn't see him panic. Like you heard him in his post-game conference. He talked about not panicking, and he talked about trusting himself and trusting the work that he's put in. And, you know, I mean, like, instead of settling, I think he got more aggressive. He just continued to attack and get downhill and get to his spots. He's one of the, you know, elite players we have in this league at getting to the paint and then working the mid-range game as well. And I think, you know, you saw in that fourth quarter in particular, he continued to do it. Sometimes you can get discouraged if it doesn't go well for you right away, but he had trust in himself, belief in himself. His teammates always have his back and know what he's capable of, so I'm sure they were encouraging him as well. But he kept being a relentless attacker, and he got it going.
Yeah, it's the mental game as well. Andrea, Minnesota, a lot of people said that Game 1 was a must-win game. How confident are you that they can bounce back in Game 2?
Ooh, bounce back in terms of play better. I do have confidence that Minnesota will play better. I mean, I feel like they're watching film right now and finding opportunities where they can improve, especially the bench. I know we talk a lot about Ant-Man, but when we talk about this Minnesota team, they've got players coming off of the bench as well that can score. You talk about guys like Naz Reid, Dante DiVincenzo, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Those 3 players were 7 of 36 from the field last night. That is 19%. And I know we talk about OKC's defense, but those 3 players, again, 4 of 24 on open threes. They had opportunities to knock down open shots, and they weren't able to do it. So I do expect Minnesota to play better. But Kendrick Perkins told me when I walked in last night, he said, "Is this your first time here?" And I said, "Yes." And he said I was going to be blown away, and I was. The crowd, how loud it was, how excited they were the entire game. This is a tough place to play. So bounce back in terms of playing better, yes, but will it be enough? I'm not sure.
Yeah, games in OKC are definitely a lot of fun. Drea, I hope you liked your questions a little bit better this time around. JB, thank you guys so much.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA over here,